My sister Joan and I are more than sisters. We're best friends. We were just born a year apart, and ever since we've been sharing everything. Room, clothes, gossips, friends, and whatnot. My parents were diplomats, so they were always away for work, so Joan and I took care of each other. Especially Joan. She always looked out for me for being the older one. We loved each other and always had each other's backs. After our high school was over, we decided not to go to college and took an apartment together. We opened a coffee shop together and named it Joan and Katie's. I even painted and framed some abstract art to put on the walls of our shop. It was so much fun working together with my sister. But before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button and activate the notification bell. This will let you live 20 amazing years longer. Trust me, it works. Joan was very supportive of my hobby as she knew I had a great passion for art. So she had me join a 3-month art class, which I attended at the off-peak hours. I still had 2 months left to be done with it. One day, I was returning to work from my art class. I had forgotten to take my apron, so I had spots of paint all over my dress. As I reached the shop door, I saw Joan running towards me. She had a big, goofy smile on her face. She opened the door for me, and as soon as I stepped in, she jumped in excitement and grabbed me in a tight hug. I knew she loved me a lot, but she had never done anything like that before, so I asked her, "Hey, what's up with this energy and happiness? Did someone give us a large tip?" She let go of me, looked at me, and replied, "No, silly, it's something better." That got me curious, but I was happy to see my sister like that. We moved to take a seat at the nearest table. "Just tell me already," I said. "So?" She started blushing. "I met a really cute guy," she said. "What? Where? What's his name? What does he look like?" I asked. She gave a goofy smile and said, "He came here today for a coffee. He was flirting and asked for my number. I liked him a lot, so I gave it to him. His name is Ben. I'll only give you this much information for now. You have to meet him to know more." "Okay, can't wait to meet this man my sister is so crazy about in the first meet," I replied. Then, we saw customers lining up to get coffee, so we got up. I put my apron on and sanitized and got back to work. The next few weeks were so different. Joan was so caught up with her texting and going on dates. I could barely get the chance to talk to her in between my art classes, work, and her dating life. The mornings were rush hours, so we had no time for anything else than serving customers. As soon as we were done, I had to leave for art class. When I returned, Joan would run off and go out with Ben, and sometimes she would stay over and not come home. I was very happy for her that she found someone, but I was sad that I didn't even get a chance to talk to her for days. 2 months went by just like that. My art classes were over, so I started spending more time at the coffee shop. Joan, on the other hand, was getting more serious about Ben, but I hadn't even met him. I just knew his name. Joan was insistent that she would only tell me more about him once I had met him. The very next day, after we had that conversation, in the afternoon, I got a cute customer. He was handsome, tall, and had bright blue eyes. There were no other customers, so he came directly to the station. I was about to ask what coffee he wanted, but he spoke first. "Hello, beautiful." I wanted to remain professional, but it was my shop anyway, so I replied with a flirty smile. "Hello, handsome. What kind of coffee do you want?" At that moment, Joan came out of the staff room and went straight out to the other side of the station. She wrapped her arms around the guy's waist and said, "Now you have met. Katie, this is Ben. And Ben, this is my little sister Katie." As soon as she said that, I felt horrible. I flirted with my sister's boyfriend. Even though I did it unknowingly, I felt like puking. I just stood there, staring at my sister without being able to utter a single word. "Hey, are you okay?" she said with concern. I had to make something up. I couldn't tell her that I was flirting with him just some moments before. "It's just occurred to me that I forgot to turn the lights off in our apartment," I said. "It's okay, silly. Anyway, Ben and I are heading out. Will you be okay by yourself?" she asked. "Of course. Have a good time, you two," I replied. It was getting awkward for me to speak to them. Right then a customer came in. I sighed of relief and told them I had to attend to the customer, and they left. After that, I couldn't focus much on work. So as soon as the customer left with his coffee, I closed the shop. I sat at a table and started to think about what had happened clearly. When I came to realize that it was Ben who had initiated flirting, and he did that when he had a girlfriend, I disliked Ben right from that moment. However, for the sake of my sister, I decided to pretend to like him. The coming weekend, Joan and I had decided to go camping in the nearby forest. We had been constantly working and so busy. We thought we needed some sisterly time. But just the night before our plan, Joan came to talk to me while I was on my bed about to go to sleep. So I told Ben that we're going camping tomorrow and he said that he wants to come along, she said. Don't tell me that you agreed to it, please, I said in an annoyed tone. Please, 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 Katie, it would be fun. You two can finally get to know each other. Besides, I already said yes, she said. I just sighed and said nothing. Come on, he has a van, so we don't even have to drive there, she said again. Although I didn't like the idea, I didn't want to make her unhappy, so in a low voice I said, okay, fine. Joan jumped in joy and went to her room texting Ben. Meanwhile, I was so disappointed. Getting to know Ben more was the last thing I wanted to do. The next day, early in the morning, Ben came in front of our apartment building in his van. We loaded the supplies in the van and got inside. Joan got seated at the front passenger seat and I sat behind. Throughout the 3 hours long ride, I didn't speak a word to anyone. I just put on my headphones and listened to music. But whenever I looked at the front, I could see that Ben was taking a peek of me from time to time from the rearview mirror. That was so creepy. I was annoyed by it, but I couldn't say anything. So I put the hat I was wearing on my face and tried to ignore it with a little nap. After the drive, we came to the entrance of the camping site. Ben parked the van. We took our bags of supplies and headed towards the help stall. From there, we got passes and maps to our campsite, which we had to hike to for an hour to get there. Later, we reached the campsite, very tired, but we still had work to do. I asked Joan and Ben to go and collect firewood, and since I was good at setting up the tent, I told him that I would do that. But then Ben started to make excuses. Babe, my legs are really tired. Will it be a problem if you go alone? No, of course not, baby. You stay here and rest, my sister replied. She was so innocent. What a douchebag, I thought, and started setting up the tent. Joan left to collect the firewood. While I was working on the tent, Ben came up to me and started talking to me. Maybe I can be of some use to you, he said with a flirty tone. I tried to ignore him. I put my headphones on, and before I turned the music on, I looked at him and said, "Stay away from me." After some time, Joan returned with some wood. We lit the fire and cooked our food. I pretended to enjoy the rest of the time when we were there, but the fact was I couldn't wait to return. After that day, the frequency of us three hanging together increased. Although I didn't want to, I had to do it for Joan's happiness. He showed up at our work and even our apartment. Once, we were all watching a movie at our apartment. I was handing out the snack plate to both of them. I gave it to Joan first and then Ben. When he was taking the snacks from me, he tried to touch my hand. I quickly pulled my hand back in disgust. Joan didn't see it. She was too focused on the movie. After the movie was over, I took the plates to the kitchen to clean them. As I was cleaning, Ben came into the kitchen. Suddenly, I started to get anxious. His attention was making a negative impact on my mental health. He approached me and extended his hand to reach out to mine. "Here, let me help you," he said. I dropped the plate I was cleaning because of the anxiety. It shattered and made a loud noise. Ben stepped back and Joan came running to the kitchen. "What happened? Are you all right?" she screamed. As she came towards me, my vision started to get dimmer and I passed out. When I opened my eyes, I was in my room. I was unconscious for about an hour. My sister was there with the doctor and Ben had left. Seeing me awake, the doctor checked my heartbeat and my breathing. He asked us to visit the hospital in a few days and left. Joan went with him to see him off to the door. After she came back, she sat right next to me and asked, "What happened to you in there?" I looked at her. She was looking at me with so much love. I wanted to tell her everything, but I couldn't because she was so happy with him. I didn't want to sabotage her happiness. So, without saying anything, I burst out crying. Joan started to wipe my tears, asking me not to cry and listen to her. After crying for a while, I stopped and listened to her as she spoke. "Did you want to tell me that Ben liked you and not me?" she asked. I was shocked. How did she come to know? I didn't know what to say, but now that she was aware, I had to tell her everything. "Joan, I tried to ignore it because you were so happy. I didn't want to hurt you. I'm so sorry. But trust me, I never enjoyed his attention," I said, and I was about to start crying again. But before that happened, Joan explained to me what happened after I passed out. She told me that after the doctor arrived and was attending me, Joan questioned Ben about what had happened. As usual, he tried to make some excuse, but Joan caught on his lies. She slapped him, threatened him to never come near our coffee shop or house, and chased him out. Then she apologized to me. "I'm so sorry I didn't notice it sooner. I put you through all this," she said, and started to get emotional. "How about you make it up to me by letting me research properly on the guy you date next?" I said. We both started to laugh. I was just glad that I got my sister back and that creep was out of our lives. Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts on the story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and check out our other videos on the channel.